So we had something absolutely crazy happen earlier this morning, as it looks like we just had the biggest computer crash in history, the biggest outage we've ever seen, as it affected all kinds of multi-billion-dollar businesses, airliners. I mean, it was wild stuff to where everything kind of came to a screeching halt, and it all had to do with, well, something that's supposed to keep this from happening in the first place, especially at the enterprise level. And we'll go over exactly what happened here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure that like button and subscribe if you're new. So while this isn't necessarily video game related, it is technology related. And I have a feeling there are many of you out there right now who are in the trenches currently in the IT departments dealing with this. And I do feel for you, because it's not exactly something you want to see happen Friday morning when you're going into work, looking forward to the weekend. And now you have to deal with pretty much everyone else at these large corporations that are coming to you with their computer trying to figure out how to fix it so they can just go about their day. Well, what happened here, as they mentioned here, thousands of Windows machines specifically. If you're on Apple or Mac, you're not really affected by this at all, unless the people you're talking with maybe day to day are using Windows computers that use the cybersecurity provider CrowdStrike, which CrowdStrike is essentially, think of it as enterprise level antivirus program, basically, in layman's terms. And the idea there is to keep any serious breaches or security issues from happening, because when you deal with some very, very sensitive data, as banks, for example, would deal with, well, you need to also spend a lot of money on security. So the idea here is you pay CrowdStrike and they make sure you're secure, which, interestingly enough, they technically made all these computers crash. And as they mention here, there's a faulty update from cybersecurity provider CrowdStrike is knocking affected PCs and servers offline, force them into a recovery boot loop so machines can't start properly, which is always a frustrating thing to deal with when you can't even have your PC turn on and get into Windows for you to fix whatever is happening. A lot of times when, like, for example, when you build a PC and you see it boot loop over and over again, it might be like hardware related or something, but when it's Windows and you have issues going on that, of course, would be keeping you from getting into your PC that could have very sensitive data or be on a network that is incredibly sensitive, yeah, that's going to ring alarm bells, especially when it has to do with the banks and airliners, which was a big one, as there were thousands of flights that were just grounded completely on Friday today. And we did eventually figure out how you can fix this, which, once again, I feel for all the IT people out there. But we also got a statement here from CrowdStrike with their Falcon update, saying they're actively working with customers impacted by a defect found in a single content update for Windows hosts. Mac and Linux hosts are not impacted. This was not a cyber attack. That's something that people were very concerned about, was that this is actually a bit more malicious than, say, a person just kind of pushing an automatic update that kind of broke everything. Is that maybe this was a cyber attack from a malicious group? Doesn't appear to be the case at this time. Again, this is coming from CrowdStrike. They're telling us it's not a cyber attack, but seems like there's more and more corroboration around this just being basically an accident on their part. A very costly accident, by the way, because one day of business for some of these big companies and airliners amounts to billions of dollars that are just lost. Now, if you're wondering, how exactly are people in IT right now fixing this? Well, it really comes down to going into safe mode and then just deleting this file here, c-000000291.sys. You delete it, and then you boot it back up, and that's kind of it. Really is the IT crowd. Have you tried turning it off and then on again? Except technically in safe mode, deleting, and then on and off again. See, because the issue is, while they did fix it on their end, they technically need to be able to call to the server to get the update, which is impossible because your PC is just in this boot loop. So fortunately, people have been able to figure it out. The other issue comes down to the fact that you do have to actually go to the PC on site, which, especially now more than ever, a lot of the access that happens for the IT department is remote, as in they will just log into your computer basically from times hundreds of miles away and work to fix whatever issue you're having. As long as you can turn your PC on and connect to the internet, technically they can fix it. But in this case, they can't. So that means they get to travel out on location and have to turn your computer off and on in safe mode, delete, and then off and on again, which really does come down to like a couple of minutes for work. I have noticed some people were basically trying to visualize and show what exactly happened when it came to like the airliners and all the planes that were grounded. Like, so there's videos like this that kind of show it just sped up throughout the day, and yeah, you can see how we lost many planes that just had to be grounded. And I mean, it is wild to think that things technically are this fragile when it comes to just infrastructure in general, and how something as what feels like as basic as just an over-the-air update, really just an automatic update that happens in the middle of the night, can break significant parts of the internet completely for these big companies, these banks, everything. Now, Microsoft has also chimed in and mentioned they're going to be working with CrowdStrike to try to figure this out, maybe from the sense that Windows can boot up with that issue so that it can then push the update automatically. But then I'm still trying to figure out how PCs would get it, since they're kind of stuck. Like, they can't update even through Windows. Again, there's a whole situation there as to how to figure that out. And naturally, of course, CrowdStrike, well, their stock kind of took a bit of a hit. At this time, it's down just over 11%, and it's now in the after hours. But yeah, it's a massive drop-off after the news hit that it was actually their fault for all this happening. But I'm curious if anyone out there was affected by this, like you went into work and there were just blue screens all around the conference table, because those were all the images and videos that were just being posted up online. And then obviously there are a bunch of memes coming out of this, like, oh, CrowdStrike, is that the person from Final Fantasy? Okay, yeah, very funny. But I'm curious though how many people went to work and just kind of had to hang out for hours on end because literally just an online update knocked the entire division out of service. I guess the silver lining here for CrowdStrike is now people know who they are, because they're just not necessarily well known unless you're on like the enterprise level setting this sort of stuff up. Although this is still kind of a situation of, okay, maybe all publicity isn't good publicity, because if your one job technically is to protect and prevent really business going down, at that really to try to fight back against any kind of cyber attacks or breaches, and then you end up actually crashing everything yourself for hours on end and actually having to go out and physically touch the computers at this point to fix them, yeah, that's not really going to instill a lot of confidence in your service. And that's really why we're seeing this with their stock and it being very uncertain now for the future with CrowdStrike. But let me know what you guys think about all this down below, especially if you're someone who has your own experience with this happening, maybe when you went to work earlier today. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.